Take it easy and solve the school lunch problem with SPAM. S-P-A-M.
こんにちは、タイガークローラジオ。You are listening now. Back J.
You are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Number 1 in vintage computer and video game entertainment. And now your host, Critical Failure.
This is Critical Failure. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Yes, friends, episode 306. Quite a long time doing these. Thanks for joining us. Got quite the episode today. So, 4 van casts this week. It's going to be a nice deluxe episode for you. As far as music, I went over to Bandcamp and looked at the chiptunes. And I picked up an album from Format, the number 4, M-A-T. This guy shows up on compilations all over the place. It's a name I recognize. We played him here on the show. The name of the album is Modern Closer, and I was able to get it free, so we're going to play some tracks off of that. We'll kick things off with, let's see, give me a second here. Let's take a look at the album real quick. Me oh my, this is quite a long album. I didn't quite get the picture until I looked at it, like outside of Bandcamp, my locally downloaded copy, but this thing runs an hour and a half long, stretched across 18 tracks. And some of them are quite long. We're gonna hear the 14th track off the album. This song is called Measure from Format. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. Stick with us. Alright, so at the top of the show I said we had 4 van casts. That's not true. We actually have 3. The first one turned out to be a garbage recording. I thought it was 4. I'm sorry. The first one was recorded on the 15th. We're going to go back there now. Let's go to the van.
Morning, everybody. It's the Van Cast for Tuesday morning. Man, it feels good to be back in the van, even at 45 degrees at 6:16 in the morning. And geez Louise, it is a cold one out. Lest there be any doubt, we are in the middle of October, and the cold fall weather is upon us. Still my favorite time of year, though, no matter what. These frosty mornings, ooh yeah, I dig them now. This is what I like. It's not cold yet. We're not talking about winter weather. There's no snow on the ground. There's no frost on the grass. I don't have to do anything to the car to get it moving. I didn't have to get out any scraper like that. You just get in the car. You gotta wear a jacket. It's 45 degrees. Let's not be silly. But, and that's it. And now we're off to work. Give me a second here. Let's throw the wipers on. Whoops. Turn the temperature up a little bit. Alrighty. We are making it happen. Feels good, boys and girls. I was home all week last week, and I gotta tell you, it was a little bit rough on old CF. I've discovered that I need my morning hour really to keep it together, and that disappeared for a week, and by the end of it I was dragging, I'm not gonna lie. Feels good though. It feels good to be back in my normal routine. So for this morning's hour, I couldn't get my brain moving. It's like trying to get an old combustion engine on a lawnmower moving when you'd have to pull the ripcord, press the primer button a couple times, hold down the handle, and you pull that ripcord, try and get the engine going, and just nothing's happening. Put, 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 put. Just keeps dying. That was my brain this morning. So, in absence of the ability for complex thought, I played Doom 2, because why not? It fits the bill perfectly. Just press and shoot, run, press and run and shoot, and get the ammo and run and get the and then you shoot more and then you press the button and then you try and get the door open and there you go. No need for thought necessary. This is Doom 2. We don't need to think. Come on now. All the Doom 2 maps that require you to think are the worst maps. They really were. Anything where you gotta find the exit and it's not readily apparent. Alright, look guys, I killed everybody in the map. I'm literally walking around an empty maze now. Not exactly Doom 2's strong point. Alright, hang on a second. I have got to put some kind of pressure on this windshield. Keep it from fogging up. And then we'll do one of these guys. Alright, yeah, so Doom 2. What else did I play? I tried for the life of me to play Alpha Centauri this morning, Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. Talked about it many times here in the air. I have a long-running play-by-email game going with Dorabka, the Gaming Beast, and Hemrock. And I tried getting it running this morning, and it crashed on me while I was in the middle of taking my turn. And it's happening a lot, and I hate it because the way it works is there must be some sort of ID number attached to our save file, because I download the save file and I open it up and I try and take my turn and it crashes. Okay, that's fine. Let's just try it again. When I open it up a second time to try and take my turn, it throws some sort of alert where it's like, okay, we've registered you as taking a turn already, so if you try and do this now, we're going to show that you tampered with the file. It's like, I didn't tamper with the file. You crashed on me. I'm still just trying to take my turn. Alright, that's fine. We'll just delete the file. We'll download a fresh copy from the email. Go with that. No. Oh no. You're getting a tamper alert, buddy. Alright. I'm running into the grocery store. Give me a second here. Alright. There we go. Grocery store is all done. No bananas this morning. They didn't have any bananas. Why would a grocery store open? No bananas, and I've also been hooked on this Butterscotch Blondie hot tea. It's been my favorite tea for a while now. And for some reason, they almost never have it at the grocery store. There's like a spot for it on the shelf, but it's always empty. It's been 3 weeks now since they've had this Butterscotch Blondie hot tea that I like so much. And, yeah. Oh well, it happens. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Sometimes they don't have it. That's what Amazon's for, I guess. Right? Alright. I feel like I had somewhere I wanted to go with the, in the morning with video games before I started ranting and raving about crazy. Literally ranting about the price of tea. Like a crazy old bag lady. Alright. So we did Alpha Centauri. I talked a little bit about that. So I had the chance to get my turn in like right away. Sean got his turn in 5 hours ago. And then I sat down at my machine. It was the last thing I was working on before I left the house. But the save file crashed on me. And I had to go. I had to get ready for work. So sorry about that. Looks like we'll have to wait until I get back tonight. On top of that, I've been kicking around with demos from Hemrock's Civilization 2 scenario that he's working on, which is pretty cool. It's it's pretty fun. I gotta say, I've overcome the pathfinding by just using the number pad to manually control every single unit, which works. I'm no longer getting units going all over the place with the pathfinding. The problem is it's making turns take a disproportionately long amount of time. So it's playable now. I've overcome the issue that was making it too difficult to play, and yeah, so that's good. That is good. All right. Anything else besides Doom 2 and Alpha Centauri and the Civ 2? Last night I didn't even end up playing video games. I got into I was bouncing back and forth between Linux Multimedia Studio and Music Maker 8. Just some of my DAW software that I've been using in lieu of having the money to buy like a nice working expensive DAW. So that's been cool. I guess. Been pretty fun. I don't have much to show for it at this point. Certainly no demos I can roll while I'm in the car driving to work. But that's been pretty chilled out. Whoa, deer in the road. Little one. Come on, deer. Come on, deer. There we go. That'll wake some people up. Sorry, guys. It happens. There's deer in the road. I'm not trying to die on a Tuesday morning in October. Speaking of October, yeah, that's right. I remember where I wanted to go. The year-end holiday sales are starting soon. I don't have a date, but they always do Halloween, big sale, then Thanksgiving, big sale, then Christmas, big sale. 3 back to back to back. So the Halloween one has got to be coming up because today is it's the middle of October now. What is today? Today's the 15th, right in the middle of October. So we're looking at, if I had to guess, a week away, a week and a half tops. All right, give me a second here. Do I have anything on my list for Halloween that I want to get? So when all the spooky games go on sale, Killing Floor and all that. Killing Floor and wow, that's an oldie. It's an oldie by now. I don't know. I'd have to check my list. But yeah, people were talking about Mega Man 11 over the last week. It's been a year since Mega Man 11 came out, and that I didn't hear people trash talking it, but that was a game that just kind of came, blip, and then it's done. No big party for Mega Man 11. Not like Mega Man 9 got. Wowie zowie. When Mega Man 9 came out, I think Mega Man 9 might be the biggest Mega Man release of my lifetime. Because I don't really ever remember the NES games coming out back in those days. I wasn't reading the magazines profusely, so I don't really remember ever being hyped for a game release. With the exception of Super Mario Bros. 3. But, yeah. So, what about in the middle? No, I never really got hooked on the Legacy or the Legends games or any of that stuff. People say they're good, but I don't know. I just never went down that path. So yeah, this was the first. I'm talking true blue Mega Man game, not any spiritual successor. That I saw, hey, coming soon. Ooh, that looks good. But I didn't bother buying it. It was $30. I just never took the plunge. We'll see what happens. Capcom's been making some pretty decent releases over the last couple of years, though. To be fair, mostly collections. The beat 'em up bundle's been great. They did the Street Fighter bundle. We got a new Mega Man game. Yeah, it's been okay. Good for Capcom. Gold star Capcom. All right, how are we doing now? 11 minutes in? That's pretty decent. That's pretty decent for Vancast, for the first Vancast in quite a while. This is what last week's show was missing. Last week's show was missing the let's chill out and talk about what I played. Talk about my week. Talk about chilling out with some video games. So here we are, Tuesday. I had Columbus Day off. By the way, I hope you guys had a good Columbus Day. Yeah, Columbus Day became a bigger deal once I started working a regular job that gets off on the federal holidays, U.S. federal holidays. So I got to be at home for Columbus Day, which is great. So happy Columbus Day, everybody. So what am I looking forward to this weekend? I just got over the biggest weekend of my life. An entire week off at home, culminating in Monday being a federal holiday. So the weekend seems pretty far away, I'm not going to lie, even with a short week. But right now, I feel like a fighting game will be good. I had this hankering, I think, last night, but I didn't jump on it because a good fighting game should be like you should toe the line, and winning should be difficult, right? So if you play a fighting game, there should be like a serious risk of just getting walloped all night. And I've had those nights playing Street Fighter V. When I was big into Street Fighter V, there were a lot of nights where I would play for like a couple of hours and it was just straight loss after loss after loss after loss. Sometimes I'd get lucky and then like I'd finally win one and be like, all right, that's the one. That's what we're going to end on. And that's what would keep me coming back. But that possibility of a huge loss before returning to work, couldn't do it. So a fighting game might be nice. Maybe not even Street Fighter V. I have a lot of fighting games that don't get a lot of attention in my Steam library. But again, the weekend's pretty far away, and I know how these things go. Whenever it's like the top of the week, and I'm just getting ready to go into the office and start my week, and it's like, this is what I'm looking forward to playing. All that changes by the time the weekend actually arrives. But yeah, right now I feel like I could play a fighting game. Maybe, you know what? Maybe like a meditative kind of thing, where it's like you play on arcade mode and you just drop the difficulty down a little bit. You're not trying to set any records. We're not talking about training for, an upcoming match. I'm talking about just hitting them buttons a little bit, getting the easy wins, just for a good time, maybe something like that. I could have gone that route. Actually, that probably would have been really fun. But what are you going to do? Hardware is another thing. Playing a fighting game means getting out a controller, getting either my fight pad or my arcade stick. I've gotten over this arcade stick thing. Like, I still like my arcade sticks, but I used to have issues where when I would play any kind of fighting game or shmup, I would feel pressure to use the arcade stick just because I bought it. I'm over that now. I use the arcade stick when I feel like it, and that's enough. So I probably use the old fight pad if I were diving back into fighting games for the first time in a while. I'd go back to the old fight pad for sure. A couple of good fighting games I never got a hold of either. Tekken 7, I never bought, and that goes routinely down to like $20 now. And I also never got Soul Calibur 6. When I was hot into Street Fighter 5, Tekken 7 was like its main competitor. I remember people on the internet were like split, not exactly down the middle. I don't know what the ratio was, but people would argue which is better, Tekken 7 or Street Fighter 5. Now when they argue about fighting games, neither one of those games come up. Even like a couple months ago, Street Fighter 5 was being talked about again because they were releasing new fighters or something. There was something new coming out for it. And that their patch came out, and then all the discussion died inside of like a couple days. So I don't even know, to be honest, I don't even know what like fighting fans are playing right now. Is it Soul Calibur 6, I guess? I know people were upset about the DLC structure for Soul Calibur 6 because one of the core fighters, and don't ask me which one, but one of the core fighters, like the main lineup, was day one DLC. I say day one DLC like it's a shocking thing now. It used to be a shocking thing. They took something out of the release, and then they made that DLC instead of making new content for DLC. Now it's the industry norm. People are done being upset about it. It's like, all right, fine. All right, fine. Charge $5 for a character that should be in the game from the get-go. That's fine. I'll just wait until the price drops from $50 or $60 down to $20. And I'll take that $40 I saved, and then I'll buy your $5 DLC with it. There you go. That's my price, or my video game budget for right now. How are we doing? 17 minutes in, golly. 17 minutes in, and I didn't really have that much to say. I think that's when I know I'm in trouble. I left the house when I was getting all ready for work. I was like, what am I going to talk about for the Vancast this morning? How have I been doing? This quiet moment where I just take stock and I just look at what I've played and what I'm thinking about and what's worth talking about. And I came up with Doom 2. It's like, all right, I just got finished playing Doom 2. That's good. We'll go over that a little bit. Doom 2 is one of these things where it's like, it's been such a mainstay staple for so long. Whenever it comes up on the air, it's like, all right, don't stay on this one too long. Everybody knows Doom 2. Come on now. Everybody knows this one. It's like talking about Quake. It's an old favorite. Good, you played it, it was good. Wow, that guy put brights right in my eyes. That sucks. But then we got to move on. And I think with that, boys and girls, now that we are 18 minutes in on this Tuesday morning, I'm going to send you guys back to the studio. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you there.
Back in the studio. Feels good, man. Feels real good. We are 23 and a half minutes in. This is a time I like to take to thank the sponsors. These people are giving of their resources to make sure Tiger Claw Radio comes back every week. If you want to be a sponsor, head over to patreon.com/TigerClawRadio. With it comes early access to the show, and I also read their names off in a hall of distinguished gentlemen. They are Hemrock, James, Sendu, Tecmo Balls, Darabka, and Konstantin Kelman. And now the Patreon sponsors are also provided with an RSS feed, so you can hook it up to your favorite podcatcher and get yourself MP3 copies of the show before anyone else does. Oh yeah, listen to that. All right, so let's catch another one from Format. Let's go back to the Modern Closure album before we return to the van. That song's called Movement and Melody off the Modern Closure album. I'd say more like electro music. I wonder what it was listed under chiptune. It's like one of the top chiptune albums. But I don't know, maybe late game chips, not retro chip, that's for sure. But good on them. Hey, it sounds good. It sounds really good. And you know what? If it sounds good, that's all that matters. So again, that is the Format album. Let's go back to the van.
Thursday morning, everybody. Time of the Vancast. Good morning. It's 52 degrees out. 6:27. 6:27. Yikes! Getting out the door late. I don't like to leave this late. 6:20 latest. That's when I like to be on the road, man. That way, no matter what happens, I'm at the office early every day. So that when the day finally comes that I leave a little late, like today, I know I'll be on time. Cold autumn mornings. Got to play some video games yesterday evening and today. Man, it felt good. Felt good. So let's roll back the clock. What was it I said I was interested in playing? I said I wanted to play a fighting game. I haven't played a fighting game in a while. What's the furthest thing you can think of from a fighting game? That's right, point and click adventures, which is what I actually ended up playing. I played through the Blackwell Legacy, Dave Gilbert's Wadjet Eye adventure game. The first one, not the entire series, just the first one. I had some time in my office and I was clicking through my Steam profile and I decided to do some achievement hunting, which is something I never do. I've always just kind of written off achievements as dumb. Even from like the very first time I ever heard about achievements, modern day video game achievements and what they were. The first time I'd ever heard anyone mention achievements, I remember it very well. I had just discovered that they released a new Mega Man game. This is when Mega Man 9 came out. So there hadn't been a Mega Man game in a very, very long time at that point. Like a main series Mega Man game. And I didn't have any modern console. I think the most modern I think the only consoles I had at that time was I had a PS2 and I had an NES and I had an Atari, and I think that might have been it in the console department. I must have had my Sega Genesis also. I don't know. I had a handful of old retro consoles hanging around. So Mega Man 9 came out, and one of the complaints with Mega Man 9 was some of the achievements were like bananas. Like beat such and such a level without taking a single hit, that sort of thing. Stuff that no one could ever do. And that was my introduction to achievements. It wasn't, hey, these are extra things you could get for fun, and nothing like that. It was just like, man, the existence of this extra bonus content is ruining it for me. That was my introduction to achievements. Yeah, not to mention, I didn't get an Xbox for quite some, like an Xbox 360 for quite some time. Right? That was the one that had the gamer score. See, Steam for the longest time, it had achievements, but there was no cumulative achievement pool connected to a profile. Not for a long time. Not with the early Steam community profiles, the ones that they had back in 2010, 2011 when I came on. So, yes, there were achievements during that time, but I felt like they were nothing achievements, like they didn't really do anything. So I never really worried about it. So, to put it in perspective, I've got about 2,000 games on Steam. A little bit less. It's like 1,990 something. And in those 2,000 games, I had 4 that were perfect. And I don't think any of those... Excuse me. I don't think any of those were, were ones where, I set out to get all the achievements. So only 4 that were perfect. So I started looking through some of my games, and I noticed with the Blackwell Legacy, I had all of the achievements but one. And I believe it was the one where you have to get Joey to tell you everything possible about your family history. So that required an additional playthrough. So I ended up playing all the way through Blackwell Legacy, start to finish, twice yesterday. It was cool, man. I hadn't played any of those Blackwell games in a long time. Very, very well done point-and-click adventure games. Very old-style graphics set. Like, there's nothing modern about the graphics in the Blackwell games, at least not with the early ones, which I enjoyed. Right? It feels more like a Space Quest game or something like that. Yeah, I dug it. I dug it very much. I forgot how much I liked those games. So that was pretty cool, man. I did that yesterday. When I was all done playing the Blackwell Legacy, I moved on to... I played a little Dead by Daylight, which I hadn't played in a long time. I jumped into the Discord server, and I got in with a group, and I started playing with a team. Which, yeah, I still enjoy that. I don't do it like every day, like or every time I play games like I used to. It's the first time I've done that in quite a while, but I still enjoy it. They have made some improvements, some quality of life improvements over with Dead by Daylight that I surely appreciate. One such improvement was like when you play with a group. It used to be after every single match, it would disconnect your group. Every single match, you would leave the lobby. Somebody would have to start a new game. And you'd have to spend extra time and energy getting everybody back on the same page again. Well, they fixed that, which is great. Small little change, but big effect. If you're gonna sit there and play 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row, that's a lot of extra nonsense figuring time that you don't have to spend anymore. So I certainly appreciate that. As for the games that we actually played, we did very well. I played as a survivor, and I ran Dwight. Dwight's my main. So I prestiged Dwight the third time. So he's now maxed prestige level. But what happens is that drops you all the way back to the beginning again. So I'm essentially starting from scratch with Dwight. I got him up to level 26 or so. So he's got all his perk slots open, but not quite back to his old self again. I mean, I had this guy maxed out for the most part. But I wanted the bloody face that gets unlocked when you prestige for the final time. I wanted that. So now I have it at the cost of resetting all my overpowered perks. So that was a fun time. I probably played Dead by Daylight for 2 hours. Which for me, sitting down to play a game for 2 hours, that's a big game session. It's a good time, it was. What else did I play? I bounced around for a couple things. I mean, Dead by Daylight and Blackwell Legacy were definitely the feature games for me yesterday and this morning. Played a little bit more Alpha Centauri. That's another one. The long-running play-by-email game of Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. That's picking up again. So I did my turn on that this morning. Let's see. How we doing here? So pretty far from fighting games, I would say. Although to be fair, this morning I actually sat down and I was thinking about how far away from fighting games I landed. I was tempted to actually load up a fighting game and go a round or two. Just like I was talking about the other day. Just a little low difficulty arcade mode. Just, nothing competitive. Just sort of kicking it around a little bit. And I opened up Steam and I navigated to a Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Right? I was never a big Tekken guy. But Street Fighter Cross Tekken. I know people don't like that game, and it's sort of this like weird odd child of the Street Fighter franchise. I like it. I like that it's just like a fun sort of romp with a couple of like major video game fighting game franchises. I like that. Fighting games need that, I think. I feel like some of these mainstay fighting games, they have a hard time having fun, right? Like, you know how Smash Brothers is all loose and fun, and it doesn't have to make sense. It's all just real chilled out and kind of goofy, and it's a good time. Fighting games outside of Smash Brothers, I think, have a difficult time reaching that sort of vibe. Especially Street Fighter. Street Fighter's got to be super... It's serious business, man. We got to bring down Shadow Liu. There you go. So this was I think one game that did it well. And you can play as a giant bear, which is pretty cool. I didn't actually get it loaded up though. I ended up messing around with my synthesizers instead. Got a new Eurorack module yesterday, so I had to get that hooked up. I had to do it. Had to get it all hooked up. I won't get into the Eurorack stuff though this morning. I'm aware that the nitty-gritty of synthesizers are not well appreciated here on Tiger Claw Radio. I had some can of worms for another morning. I will tell you this though, I was goofing around with it and I had my earphones on because it was like 5:30 in the morning. And I knew there was people sleeping around me. My son, his room is like across the hall from my office. So you gotta be quiet, you know? So I had my earphones on and I was fooling around with my Eurorack, just making bleeps and bloops, you know, nothing special. Trying out the new module, doing my thing. But what I didn't realize was that my earphones were connected to the mixer, as usual. And the mixer also went out to the stereo, which was on at the same time. So yeah, I had my earphones on, and I was like, we're going to be quiet. But as it turns out, the stereo was blasting every bleep and bloop I was making as well. Not as quiet as I thought I was. Thankfully, nobody came in to yell at me about it. So, my apologies. All right, how we doing? 12 minutes and 23 seconds. All right, just about ready to wrap here, but you know, thinking about what I'm looking forward to playing in the future for the weekend, now I don't know, because playing the Blackwell Legacy reminded me how awesome point and click games are, you know, when they're done well. But I've got a number of point and click games that I haven't beat yet, or just I haven't even really given a serious try yet, you know? Gemini Rue. I never played Gemini Rue all the way through. I had Joshua Nurnberger here on TCR, the guy who made that game, back when that game was first coming out. It was like my big interview. And I never actually played it through, which is hilarious to me. So part of me wants to go back and play Gemini Rue all the way through. I think Gemini Rue got outshined by the Blackwell Legacy, in my opinion. But, I don't know. Not a bad game, nonetheless. Excuse me. Kathy Rain. It's another point-and-click adventure that's supposed to be really good. Set in the 1990s. A very... based on the trailer, you can see it's a pretty heavy-handed period piece. Yes! How are you doing here in the 90s? I am doing well here in the current year of 1990-something. How are you doing? I am also doing well. Did you know Captain Kangaroo is on the television? Why, yes, he is. That would be because the current year happens to be in the 1990s. So that's guaranteed to be corny and dumb, but also charming. So what am I actually looking forward to playing this weekend? If I decide to go the point-and-click route, probably be Cathy Rain. Cathy Rain would be my main pick for the next point-and-click adventure game. Or Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Right now, I don't know which is going to be the game. Fighting game, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, or point-and-click adventure with Cathy Rain. So since I've chosen those two games, what I'm actually going to end up playing is going to be a million miles away. But it'll be fun figuring out what it is. And with that, boys and girls, I'm going to send you guys back to the studio. Have a good one.
We are back in the studio, ladies and gentlemen. Tiger Claw Radio. This is episode 306. Jeez Louise. 306. Every time I read the number of the actual episode on the air, it always makes me feel old. To the point where I haven't been doing it really. But yeah, this is episode 306, being recorded in the middle of October 2019. Alright, let's go back to the van for one final time. We're 44 minutes in, so this should round out the hour. And then when we come back, we can read our comments from last week in the fail bag. Oh yeah, good times. I hope you guys are having a good evening or morning or whenever. Hope you're having a good day.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Vancast. It is Friday, 6/24, 46 degrees outside. Yikes. Yikes. Cold weather's coming. Cold weather's coming. It's not here yet, though. This is just a little brisk. Light jacket on. The sun is nowhere to be found. We're getting ready to drive in pitch black to the office to do my Friday. Friday in the slow season, everybody. I love it. I'm going to go in and have a good time today. Do my day work, focus, get the job done, and it'll be just fine. Good times. So it's funny that now I'm approaching the weekend, and what did we talk about yesterday? Yesterday, it was point-and-click adventure games, or it was fighting games. So there's one thing I can be sure of. If I have some sort of projection early on as to what I'm going to play, closer I get to the weekend, the more that projection mutates. So this morning I'm sitting at my desk and I'm clicking around and I'm like, what other kind of video game shenanigans can I get into? And then all at once it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like an interest I hadn't sniffed or thought of at all in a while. And that was, I have a Sega Saturn that can play imports. And I've done barely anything with this. I played... I have a helicopter game, which is probably my most played game on the Sega Saturn. I've got Myst, which I think I sat down with once or twice. I've got a few backups. And I've got Need for Speed. I think playing Need for Speed might have been one of the things that kind of got me out of the Saturn. Because I don't know why. I guess I just expected a little more. I remember Need for Speed, even the early Need for Speed games on the PlayStation being really gripping and awesome. And this one didn't grab me, I guess. But I can play imports now. And even low-level imports. I personally enjoy pachinko games. I try not to talk about them too much on the air because I know no one else does. But there's some pretty sweet looking pachinko on the Sega Saturn for very cheap. I mean, we're talking about the cheapest authentic Sega Saturn imports you can get. Like a nice sweet complete in box game for $10. Yeah, so a while back I was getting imports. This is probably 3 months ago now or more. I was getting imports for the Super Nintendo. I got some pachinko games, and I got in there with some pliers into my Super Nintendo, and I peeled off the 2 tabs that they have in there for region locking. It's very weird the way they have the Super Nintendo set up. Unlike the original Nintendo, Super Nintendo's got the same pin set. Everything's the same top to bottom as the Japanese Super Famicom. The way they handled region locking was with physical pins. Now, bear with me if you've heard this all before. I'm talking about the region locking mechanism on the SNES. This is something some of us salty old dogs have been told many a time before. But it's just these physical plastic tabs that they put in to block out Japanese games. If you got a Super Nintendo game handy, take a look at the back side down where it slides into the machine. There's 2 notches cut out. And those are cut out to fit the tabs that are meant to block out a Super Famicom game. So get yourself a Super Famicom game, slide it in your machine, and it'll get stopped by those 2 tabs. I think it was Engie who originally taught me, just get in there with some needle nose pliers and peel those tabs off. So I finally did it, and I got to play some pachinko because it's super cheap, you know, on the Super Famicom. And I was blown away. I was blown away because as much as I like pachinko, the vast majority of it I've played on the original Famicom, the old NES, and the Game Boy, like original gray cart Game Boy releases, DMG Game Boy releases. So making that 16-bit jump, you know, was huge. So now I'm finally going to go from there to the Sega Saturn. I bought a couple of PS1 pachinko games back in the day, like 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 months ago, however long it's been. But I had a little bit more of a difficult time getting those to play. It seems that the PS1 region locking is a little bit harder to jump over. I don't have any authentic machine that will play Japanese PS1 games. I do have an emulator that I got up and running, and that was how I played them. But something about PlayStation 1 emulation, I wasn't quite feeling it. And this is from somebody who, I've enjoyed emulation a great deal over the years. I'm not an anti-emulation guy by any means. Especially in the case of the PS1, where it's like, this is a game where I own the real game. I own the authentic copy of the physical release of the really real game. There's no piracy going on here. And I just wanted to play it on a machine. And I think if you can get your computer working well enough, I think that fits the bill. All right, hang on a second. All right, come on, buddy. There we go. All right, so I'm rambling pretty hard. So how do I get this back on the tracks? I haven't really been buying physical releases of video games because I've been into synthesizer equipment. I've been buying Eurorack modules and things like that. But I'm thinking, starting this week, I might look at diving back into physical games with the Sega Saturn. Now, understand that I cleared out a good bit of physical games. Nothing. I didn't sell anything that like had any personal value. But from those like thrift store finds, those big hauls where I would just come back with a bunch of like disc-based games, sold a lot of that stuff to make room. So I feel like at this point, if I wanted to pick up a couple of physical release games, I got some space for it now. I don't feel like I'm in quite as much of a space crisis. Just great. It's a good place to be. So the problem is, I kind of had this thought just as I was getting ready to leave the house. So I got to look at the market and see what's good for the Sega Saturn that's attainable. Sega Saturn's a tough one, man, because you can get games like Myst, or not that there's anything wrong with Myst, just the Sega Saturn version's a little slow. But you can get Myst, or you can get what is it called? I can never remember the name of that stinking helicopter game I used to play. Or Need for Speed. Those games, none of those games are very expensive for the Sega Saturn, but once you start getting into the desirable games, the coin flips in a big way. And even more so with imports, I think, in some cases. Especially like if you're into shmups, like I am, a good Sega Saturn shmup. Oh yeah, man. That's what I want. Alright, where are we at now? 8 minutes and 8 seconds in. And I talked about wanting to get back into the Saturn. Yeah, man, that card, the DESM that you sent, the one that unlocks the region lock on the Sega Saturn and makes it so you can play backups and stuff, that evening blew my mind when I first put that in, and I was like, I get to play Donpachi for the Sega Saturn. That blew my mind, because that was like some of the games that were in that folder were some pretty top shelf games, you know. And I'm trying to lean more towards the enjoyment of authentic copies of games. But you got a game that's like, I don't know, how much is Donpachi for the Sega Saturn? It's got to be at least $80. That's just, it might as well be $1 million billion at that point. But I'll look at the market. It's Friday afternoon or Friday morning right now. I will look at the market this weekend, and then hopefully next weekend we can compare notes and see what's attainable. I know by now not to save with the idea of getting a deal at MagFest, because conventions are not the places you go for deals. You go to conventions and make impulse purchases. You don't make deals. You don't get deals. Impulse purchases, and also big ticket sales amongst people who like to avoid using eBay. That's a thing. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before, but I was there with Engie, and we were talking to one of the dealers, and the guy was saying how he sold like some $500 game off of eBay, and the buyer got the game, and then this is an authentic game. I don't know what it was called, but authentic game, big ticket cartridge based game, and the guy was like, "This is a reproduction. I need a refund," and eBay refunded him. So the seller lost the game and the money, and it was pretty much SOL. And he was like, "Yeah, man. When it reaches a certain point, when the value gets high enough, there's too much risk to sell on eBay." So that's another thing you could justify going to a convention to do. Like, if I was, okay, man, I want a single game for the Sega Saturn that's going to be big money. I'm going to go to these dealers and look at their collection pieces. I could see doing that. But not me, man. I've always been buy to play. Buy to play. Very, very seldom do I buy just to own. I've done it a few times. I'm not going to lie. I've even done it a few times like in the last year or two. The most recent example of this is buying the original Europa Universalis. I bought that for the PC. It's like a big box game. Big box game. Like the granddaddy of Grand Strategy. I wanted to own it in the great big box with the big manual, because I used to own a bunch of boxes like that. And that was one I bought. I already had that on GOG.com and on Gamers Gate. I didn't need a big box, but I wanted one. So, one example where I doubled back on my buy-to-play rule. So let's see. We went from let's play a fighting game this weekend to let's play point-and-click adventures this weekend to Sega Saturn. My plan with the Sega Saturn right now is I want to play that helicopter game again. I got this weird helicopter game with most bizarre, like, I want to say advanced controls, but that's not really fair. It's more like they tried to do too much with too few buttons, so the controls end up being really awkward. I want to play a helicopter game. I should just order a copy of Nuclear Strike or Soviet Strike. Call it a day. I want to get Soviet Strike in particular because that was one of the games I ordered for my Sega Saturn when I was a teenager, and the Saturn broke while the game was still en route. Back in those days, I would buy things off of eBay with money orders. I'd go down to the grocery store and get a money order, and then I'd bring the money order back and send it through snail mail. So it would take a good eBay purchase would take like 3 weeks plus. You know, that was the time, man. The late 90s. It was what it was. So that's what I'm looking forward to for this weekend. I think with that, I'm going to send you guys back to the studio. I'm going to put on some Future Funk for the rest of the drive to work. Because it's Friday, baby. For you guys listening to this comes out on Monday. So if you're driving to work right now and you're listening to me talk about Friday, my heart goes out to you. This is me from the future, from next Friday, telling you to stick it out this week. It'll all be all right, okay? Hang in there.
Back again in the studio. Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. Friday night. That's it with the fail bag, with the Vancast, everybody. Time for the fail bag. You know how this works. It's just you and me. It's you and me, and that's it. Nope. You and me and the static. So, if you got anything you want to say, if you want to reach out to the show, you can email me if you know me personally. Just make sure you're clear about what I can or can't read on the air. Other than that, the best way to do it is probably just to head over to YouTube and leave a comment. Just leave a little YouTube comment. Those are they're not perfect. We've had some issues with certain comments just not showing up or I don't know, possibly getting censored. I don't know. Who knows? But it's the best we have. So I'm going to run over to the comments right now and we'll see what we got. See, last week was 305. We talked a little bit about Blizzard. Everyone was being mad at Blizzard. We got some comments. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good stuff. Okay, so the first one comes from Desm101, who writes, "The Diablo games are really the only Blizzard game I've played. I've been hearing about the controversy and haven't looked into it much, honestly. It seems that banning that player was a dumb move on their part. And it's cool to hear about people from different ends of the political spectrum agreeing on something." Then he has a 45-minute time signature. "Probably my most disappointing gaming memory in recent years is when I bought a Paper Mario sticker star on 3DS. I was hoping for a Mario RPG-style romp, but instead it was this vapid children's game where you have to collect stickers to be able to make actions during battles. I traded it in for a different game within a few weeks." Ouch. Ouch, man. I can't think of a time when I had a game that was so bad I just traded it in. I can't think of a time. I'm not saying I've never traded in games, but it's usually, there's usually more to it. I don't think I've ever had a game I just brought home and played once and was like, nope. No, sir, this is going back. It's happened on Steam before. After they announced Steam reviews, there was like this VR arcade style thing where you'd set out arcade machines and it would launch into specific Steam games. Now, there's a game like that called Anarchy Arcade, which I've played many hours in, but this was like a newer, more updated kind of thing, and it didn't work at all. So that's one. I think that might be the only time I ever got a refund on Steam. Yeah, man, that's pretty harsh. I'm trying to think. What did they do before? What did Blizzard do before Diablo? I guess they were just known for Warcraft 1 at that point. I don't know if Warcraft 2 or Diablo came first, to be honest with you. But in those days, I remember Diablo, like the first one, and I remember Warcraft 2 being a big deal. I didn't really remember the first Warcraft game until later on, like when I went back to check it out. But those were the days where I thought Blizzard was like really something hot. And then I felt like when World of Warcraft came out, I know they didn't invent the whole subscription model, like even EverQuest did it before them, but I felt like they really popularized it, and it became much more, like before World of Warcraft came out, I thought the idea of paying a monthly fee to play a video game was preposterous. I thought it was ridiculous. And World of Warcraft really kind of made people okay with that idea, I guess. That's in my opinion. Again, they weren't the first people to do it, but so, you know. And what's going on with him now is still a dumpster fire. Like, they gave that guy his winnings back, but only to try and appease the lynch mob. Apparently they're still like banning people in Hearthstone who are speaking out against the Chinese government. So people are still really mad at them. So still hold off buying that original Diablo if you can, or buy the CD-ROM edition off of eBay and play it that way. Desmond, man, good to hear from you, brother. Thanks for writing in. Death Adder writes, yes, Fable for the original Xbox, but remastered for the 360 and now playable on Xbox One. Good lord, that's a lot of Xbox in one sentence. There are a few original Xbox games available on the Xbox One, though. Seeing and hearing that the original Xbox startup screen is good times. Yeah, man, yes it is. This past week I've been replaying the 2013 Killer Instinct, which I haven't touched in a couple of years. I think I have an easier time building my own PC out of old toaster parts than winning an online match. But against the computer on very easy, I'm an unstoppable juggernaut, a very solid fighter. Yeah, man. People, it's like people are embarrassed about playing arcade mode on easy in a fighting game. Not me. Sometimes you just want to feel like a winner. And that's tough to do in a fighting game. But he goes on. The PS5 was announced for holiday 2020. I think I already know the answer to this, but are there any Fs given from the master of the Tiger Claw? Now, here's the thing, Death Adder. I might surprise you on this one. I'm more apt to give it serious consideration because I skipped the last generation entirely. I never got a PS4. I never got an Xbox One. I never got a Switch. I just completely skipped the entire last 5 years of console gaming. Skipped over it. So now, I mean, I guess there's a chance to get in on the forefront, but there would be things that I would want to see come from it, and I know I wouldn't get them. They would have to roll back this pay for online multiplayer thing, and I know they're not going to. The fee for playing online is something that's being increased right now, not decreased. There's that, and they would also have to have some serious backwards compatibility. Like, I know they're not going to make one machine that can play all of the PlayStation games, but I don't know. They better have some serious backwards compatibility, and I better be able to keep all my PSN games, which I'm pretty sure I would be able to. Honestly, I don't think I'm going to get one, but I'm interested enough that when it comes out, I'm gonna be looking to see what people say and see what it can actually do. I'm not that concerned about what they're promising right now, because I know that's just a bunch of malarkey anyway, you know. But we'll see what really comes of it. It could be great, you know. You never know. But I mean, that's just because I skipped the last generation. I'm kind of with Bithead 1000 on this, and he was like, "There's no need for it. There's no need." That's what he said. I agree with him. There really isn't. We're gonna sell. Hey, man, you want the deluxe, special, ultra special, deluxe HD edition of Skyrim? It's 50% more Skyrim. All the text is written in Comic Sans. Mecha Menace writes in, don't be bummed about the low content count on last week's TCR. YouTube did something with my comment. I can't remember if there was any gold in there, but hey, check the held review and spam filter in your YouTube Studios comment tab. A weird thing I noticed recently with comments is when visiting that comments tab in the studio, it doesn't show the latest comments on top. I have to switch to the spam tab, then held for review, then back to normal public comments for the comments to show in the latest to oldest order. That is weird. That is weird. Okay, Mecha Menace. So I'm actually in the studio right now. What we got? Okay, so we're going to go held for review. Nothing there. Likely spam. Nothing there. Back to public. All right. So we're looking to see if Mecha Menace dropped one on last week. I've got 2 comments from last week. One from Julia and one from Death Adder. Interestingly enough, she didn't write in this past week. Guess she didn't like my joke. Oh well. Sorry. Alex Swingle writes, in regards to the Blizzard foul-up, the SJWs are 80 years too late. Where were they when Blizzard was condemning gold farming by Chinese... excuse me, I read that completely wrong. Where were they when Blizzard was condoning gold farming by Chinese slaves? I hope these slimes grow a spine someday, but we all know it's impossible for invertebrates to do so. Seriously, that clown learned the hard way to leave protesting outside the game. It's called sportsmanship, and everyone hates it when people try and hog the spotlight with irrelevant things to the event. Hopefully more companies teach these people to shut their trap. I really hate these pathetic virtue signalers. Harsh. Pretty harsh. Bit of a hot take. Bit of a hot take there, my friend. You know, like, I hate to admit it, because he was talking about something that people so unanimously agree with. But you do kind of have a point that politics should be kept outside of the event or what have you. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, it's a complicated situation. I know that Blizzard's in damage control, though, man. A lot of people are mad at him. We're seeing events get canceled. People getting banned. It's weird, man. It's weird. Everything's on fire. Hold off with those Blizzard bucks, everybody. My favorite is when they show, like, I think I might have said this last week, but when they show stock prices, it's like stock prices fluctuate. Right? That's a normal thing. There's like an up and down. So if you, they would show these images of a graph going, you know, with a little bit of a normal fluctuation, then it would go down and to the right, which would indicate a drop in stock prices. But if you actually look up the stock prices for Blizzard and you kind of zoom it out, you see like a sharp increase up and to the right. And then there's like a little correction at the end, which doesn't seem, you know, grand scheme isn't that big of a deal. And that's the reality versus just look at these stock prices. Blizzard's stock is crashing after this. No, it's not crashing. Blizzard stock, barely. I'm going to look it up right now. I feel like people look at these without really understanding what they mean. With that, boys and girls, it's time to wrap for the week. Time to call it a week. 1 hour and 10 minutes. Whatever brought you here, kept you here for 1 hour and 10 minutes. Just want to say thanks. Thanks for spending some time hanging out. It's been a really chilled out episode, which felt really good. It felt good to be able to talk while commuting again. I missed that last week. So as you guys move on to this next week, I really hope that it goes well for you. Hang in there, and I'll see you next Monday.